Good evening, everyone.
Well, good evening, Patty. Hi, Patty.
Hi. I'm trying to move the slide though.
Right there.
Yeah, I did. Okay.
Now.
Thanks. So the agenda's on the screen. I'm not going to read through it. I want to welcome everyone and thank you for attending.
Right.
This is our annual meeting, which takes place in June of each year. Our annual report is on the table here, or I think you can probably get it. Will it be online?
To the website.
Okay, it'll be on the website also for your access. There's a lot more detail in the annual report than there is with the presentation tonight. So what we'll be doing is reviewing fiscal year 25. In fiscal year 25, some of you know this, some of you don't. We have kind of a mid-year fiscal year. So our year starts April 1st and ends March 31st. So we are now in fiscal year 26, even though it's 2025 right now. So in addition, we'll also give some updates on some FY26 items which we're working on. And please note, you'll find, as I mentioned, additional information in the report, which includes more key accomplishments, details behind financials, committees, etc. So I want to start out by thanking our amazing management and staff. They are our backbone, and that is why we enjoy our club so much, is because of them. So I thank you. I'll say this again later, but I also want to thank all of you and all of our volunteers. So many of you on the board, on committees, in different venues, etc., that volunteer your time. And we also couldn't be successful without that. So I thank you. So, year in review. First, our centennial celebration commenced. And it commenced in 2020, in FY25. First with the publishing of our commemorative centennial book. I want to thank Steve Carell and Jim Bradbury Sr. Steve is here. Saw him earlier, but they did a great job. Please know there are books available to purchase. So, and our amazing gala, which took place on January 29th, which is the day we were established in 1925. So it was amazing. So many people put in their time and effort to make this clubhouse look spectacular. And the event was spectacular. There are pictures out there for any of you. I know a number of you are away in the winter and couldn't attend. So going on, FY25 was another successful year. We met our budget objectives, our operations were well funded, and we maintained reserves to protect us from unforeseen economic challenges. The Evans Scholar Program has continued to expand. Year 2 was a great success, and now we're in year 3, and we have 9 caddies. So don't forget to take out a caddy with you. We all are mentoring them as well as them helping us on the golf course. I think you all know they're not necessarily experienced caddies, so they're not going to tell you to use your 9-iron, but they're there for us to help them and them to help us. For the second year in a row, we were chosen as the best golf course in Central Oregon by voters in the Bend Bulletin.
Yay.
Yay. Our facility master plan committee is well underway. Dennis is chairing that, and we have a number of people here who are part of that committee. Our member survey was completed late fall. Thank you all for completing it. It helps us understand what you all are looking for and what you're willing to do. So DECA, who is the team who helps us look at the venue and what might need to be done, they conducted meetings with committee and staff, actually on the first day of fiscal year 26, April 1st. And we are awaiting their recommendations. So I know a number of you have asked what's happening with this. So please know more information to come. We also hosted the US Amateur, after last year, we hosted the US Amateur Final Qualifier, and this year we brought the US Senior Open Qualifier in May, so that was pretty exciting. I know a number of you walked with the players and helped them with their scores, so thank you. And we've had great membership growth, so it's been a pretty successful year. And I'd like to now turn it over to, let's see, Josh, I think. But the slides kind of moved.
All right.
There you go.
Great. Thank you, Patty. So I have helped present the financial report in tandem with the board and our finance committee the past few years, and they agreed to let me do it again this year. So with that in mind, we try to take a really high level view at our financial progress and look at it from the perspective of you as members and not get too bogged down in the details. And that's kind of our goal here. There's some more detail in the annual report as well as much detail as you want down in the office and hearing Diane and I bicker on any given day. So all of that exists, but to kind of focus on some of our growth in fiscal year 25. So we achieved our budget, and overall, you'll hear me talk a lot in this presentation if you've been a part of my presentations in the past, the difference between the operating ledger and the capital ledger. Starting off, looking at overall, we achieved a net profit of $592,000 for the year with both combined, which is a great successful year for us. When I break that down in coming slides, it's really interesting to see where that comes from. And I think that's a lot of good education for members that might not serve on the finance committee or the board to understand how those levers work. Our year-end cash balance is right around 2.3 million. That was about $583,000 better than last year. So I will say that some of that came through some different levers that we'll discuss here that were unbudgeted for them that we outperformed in, which is great news all around. Interesting piece there, when we started the bunker project, we were at about 2.1 million in the bank. So we're right back around that number following bunker project and a lot of the big projects we did around the building in the past couple of years. Looking at where that cash balance comes from, 80% of that increase came from our capital ledger. So I'll continue to kind of talk about how that is important to driving our financial results over the operating ledger as a whole. Overall, we funded our long-term reserves by $100,000 again this year, which we have been doing each year since the land sale, in and around $100,000 number. It's varied just a little bit, but we've been at that 100 for a few years now. So that balance is at $691,000 at year end there. We also maintain a short-term break fix fund that we fund $50,000 to a year. This year, we actually only ended up using 17,000 of that. So the remaining balance kind of goes into our long-term balance there as well. One thing that's really interesting when you look at our budget, we achieved our budget in all categories except dues were a little bit short on the year. That being said, if you look at all revenues for the year, we are above budget by $20,000. Huge thanks to every department head here that works in tandem with their committee and the like to have positive variances in each of their department for revenue. So it's just really fun whenever we see rounds increase, food and beverage covers increase, and all those kinds of things that produce a positive variance in revenue. That's really good all around and really nice to see on that piece. So when we look at our kind of positive variance to budget, when we budget our operating ledger, we budget it break even for the year. And I'll show this on the next slide a little bit more in detail here. To give you an example, the fiscal year 26 budget that was just approved, the break even amount on the operating ledger is less than $5,000. So we give ourselves a very small amount of wiggle room on the operating ledger, and we manage that throughout the year and produce kind of what result we are able to throughout the 12-month given period. So we're about $107,000 better than budget. But a majority of the rest of that increase, that 80% really comes from our initiation fees this past year. And then we have other contributions that were budgeted for the members through our capital dues line. So capital dues is something that started in full April 1st, 2024. So it's been in place for the full fiscal year. And we're gonna see the impact of that here on this next slide. So this is a really basic look at our operating ledger, capital ledger, and how they talk together. For the picture on the left, was there anybody here when we presented in April of 2023 on long-term strategic planning on the financial side? And does that graph look at all familiar to you? So I bring up this graph because it's where we were about 2 to 3 years ago. If you look at the solid line, it was our growth following the land sale and the COVID funds, as well as the bunker assessment. What we saw there is if we continued on the same path without those special events happening, we would see that dotted line begin to decrease on the overall worth of the club. And we had a goal to at least maintain, if not better that over time. So as we look at these 3 columns here on the left, you'll see this year on the operating ledger dues and ancillary revenues, our total break even was $107,000 for the year. That same number we saw before. I always like to phrase this our margin on the operating ledger was 2%. So we don't have a big window in an operating margin in a business like this compared to someone that might have a manufacturing business or something like that has that larger margin. So whenever our dues and those ancillary revenues come in, they pay the bills. And that 2% overage that we manage throughout the year is what produces that result. This year was a really exciting year on initiation fees. The past 2 years, we were at about $250,000 in initiation fees captured. The initiation fee has been the same for those same periods. This year, we did over $520,000 in initiation fee revenue for the club. That's pretty cool. One thing that I like to say to everybody that works on my management team is Bevan is our conduit and is an awesome salesman to capturing that revenue. However, everybody has a role in Bevan producing that result to us, right? Nobody wants to come here and join if the grass is not green, if the golf tournaments aren't fun, if the food and beverage service isn't a camaraderie place that we want to be in, those kinds of things. So all of that effort is what produces that, and Bevan gets to see it on the day in, day out on those pieces. So that's a really great example of the teamwork that produces that result. So really neat to see that happen this year. The other key piece to this result is that capital dues line there that goes hand in hand with that. So what you'll see in the past 2 fiscal years, we were on our capital ledger just a little bit in the red, 100,000 or 13,000. This year we produced a result of almost 400,000. And that is definitely a powerful thing that gives us the opportunity to start looking at some future projects and things that we've talked about or need to do for preventative maintenance or other items. It gives us the ability to really start considering those. So when you tie it all together, that's where we get to that net income number of that 592,000 we started with. Key pieces, just for those of you that might not work on the budget process, and I want to thank Diane for one day just sitting, Diane and I talk about this on a day-to-day basis, so sometimes we get lost in the weeds or those kinds of things. As we were writing up the budget, we were like, well, Diane came up with the idea, put it in 3 questions and make it simple. So the operating ledger is as simple as, are we running our operating ledger so that all of our expenses are covered? And that's that 2% result. Capital ledger, are we funding depreciation? Are we making sure we have enough cash coming in on the capital side to work on deferred maintenance? And now we're seeing that result there. And then looking at our cash reserves, are we going to run out of money? The answer is no. When we achieve all 3, that's where we see this growth. So before I flip to the next slide, look at that dotted line on the bottom side on the left there. That was our projected trend 3 years ago. If we did not have that impact of the capital ledger. And this is where we're at today. We've continued to grow instead of either decreasing or flatlining there. So the capital dues piece flatlined us in this model. That increase in initiation fees that we saw this year is where we saw that continued growth. So it really gives us the opportunity to continue to plan for the future accordingly. What else did we do from a financial perspective this year? Because we had some other expenses on the capital side. We completed the fire panel project at $110,000, and the HVAC project at $292,000. Nice to say that all those projects that we worked on came in at or just slightly better than budget, which was great overall that we produced that result. Other things we did, we kind of completed that deck and stairs project. We got new china, some new athletic equipment, golf shop carpet, range mats, and some other ancillary items around the club. I put pictures in here of things you might not know of. The fire panel's kind of boring downstairs. I laugh because now, those that work on our staff know it's the Potter 4000 model, and I like to joke about it, but like I go into Cascade Lakes and they have a Potter 4000 on the wall, and I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what that thing is. That being said, I put a picture of the bed knife grinder on here. Mom, what does the bed knife grinder do? Cuts the grass. So that being said, that's a critical component that we'll get another 2 to 3 decades out of. That is great when we talk about the grass being green. That's a needed capital item to produce that result. Nobody really ever sees it unless you go and visit Moff out in his area out there, but it is important for us. So I try to throw that kind of up here to give you an idea of what that looks like as a whole. So that is our overall financial picture. In the report are these more detailed items. I'm not going to go through these in detail. They all roll up to that simple one we looked on the front end. But just again, to reiterate the message, when we find that 2% margin on the operating ledger and excel on the capital ledger, we really produce a result overall that really can make impact around the club. So with that in mind, we're going to turn it over to our committee reports to keep moving through our agenda. We're going to go through them alphabetically and start with the athletic committee and Mr. Barry Nelson.
All right, good evening, and thanks for a few minutes to update you on our athletic facilities. And all the areas had some improvement throughout the year. So anybody who's recently been in the court area has seen the resurfaced tennis courts, as well as the updated court viewing areas that has new furniture, accessories, and the walls freshly painted. Other items that happened in that area, we purchased a pickleball ball machine, as well as a new tennis mower to pick up the tennis balls. We also held a pickleball and tennis social mixer throughout the year, and we had a men's and women's pickleball tournament. In the simulator area, even though it was down for a little bit, it came back strong with a enhanced new projector and screen, so hopefully everybody appreciated that. And in the pool area, we had the pool deck professionally cleaned, as well as some other minor updates. In the workout area, we had new cardio equipment, 2 treadmills, an elliptical, and a spin bike. We offered strength and conditioning and a golf swing speed classes, and we posted exercise demonstration cards and related videos. So all in all, it was a pretty successful year for our athletic community. Thanks.
Thank you, Barry. Now next from our golf committee, Mr. Mitch Biss.
Thanks, Josh. Thank you, everybody. Mine's not quite as exciting as that. Just a few things that we've covered. Recently, last year, 2 years, pace of play. I think we called it Operation 450. And it's still in full effect. You know, we haven't sent out any letters this year, but we've had a couple close calls. And Monty will go into detail about all of that. As far as enforcement letters going out, 1, 2, 3, you get some consequences there. So I'm gonna briefly touch on the cart policy. We're gonna table it for this year. We're gonna keep the cart policy as we've done. The private cart fees getting assessed for the private members. But we're gonna table that until next year. So the changing of X's on the T sheet, so we changed that from, I think it was all the way up until the day or 2 days before. And now we've got 4 days of open times there. And then another big piece, we do a lot of stuff on the tournaments, you know, scheduling, dialing that stuff in, and handicap stuff too. So a lot going on, but I'm gonna keep it short. Who's next?
Hi. I'm Jen Agnes. I'm the chairperson of the Grounds Committee and I'm, oh, sorry, louder. Okay. Super nervous. So our accomplishments were, we had a really nice mild winter, so Mom was able to get the turf grass nursery that we lost because of the land sale in Little Pond Park. We got the new one set up on 8 and it came in at budget. And he also with his crew worked on the green tee boxes on hole number 11, 16, and 17. And did a beautiful job refurbishing the combo tee on number 6. And even if you don't play from that tee, just walk on there. It's just gorgeous now. He also has got the practice bunker on the left of the first hole. It should now have sand in it. Turns out Moth likes to nickname things, so that's called the Chippy Bunker, and it's all been refurbished so that it replicates the bunkers from the bunker project. And the committee has worked on the development of the cart path project, which I am gonna come back and talk about in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. And up next, we're gonna have Mr. Bill Ross of our House Committee.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, so I am really lucky. I chair the House Committee, Bill Ross, and I have an awesome 6 other members of our House Committee that have just incredible amount of volunteer time. So I wanted to thank, Mark and Connie and Michelle and Mary Ellen and Shelley and Kathy, because they're all awesome. So just to get into the start of it is the flowers out there. Anybody notice a little change in the flowers? So we have a new member of our committee, Kathy Leeming, who is just volunteering her time on making the flowers just beautiful out there. And, last week, Kathy and I and Moth's group, we did the hanging planters out here on the railing. And I'm sure you probably all noticed that.
Yeah.
And so when we were working on this, Kathy said, I'm changing out all the primrose. Because they've already bloomed, they're perennials. What am I gonna do with them all? So I said, why don't you just, put them in little pots and bring them here tonight for the annual meeting to see if any of our members want to take some home. So they are all out the door there out on the railing, right? Out on the deck on the stairs. So anybody who wants to take home primrose to plant and they'll look nice and then they'll bloom next spring, you're welcome to them. And she's changed those out with, new, summer, fall, blooming, flowers. All right. I want to talk about our indoor, the clubhouse, our, seasonal decor, special thanks to Michelle and Connie and Cheryl. We've had some wonderful, table decorations, the table lights, also the holiday, November, December, really refreshing the holiday decorations that we had. And of course, we supported our fabulous January centennial party in here. That was I thought it was over the top. It was great. And the other thing is, something else that Michelle took on was, an issue we had down in the locker rooms of how staff can, deliver and pick up towels. And so, Michelle organized, put in these new, towel hampers and in each of the men's and the women's locker room, which is really helping out the staff, supplying us with towels. The other thing that just happened, of course, last year we had the new dining room chairs, all that. And we decided to, upgrade the chairs in the quail room, and they just arrived. They're great, and also a couple of nice little lounge chairs down in the golf shop. They're pretty incredible too, in front of the TV. So you gotta spend some time down there in the golf shop and browse around and sit and watch. Anything, so what's coming up is, of course, I think Josh will talk about a couple of things, the big projects, but the other thing we're really looking at for getting into next year's budget is looking at new cushions for all our outdoor chairs. A little more comfortable, a little more robust. And so that's some of the things we're looking at. So thank you very much.
And before I pass off the mic, you can say to our last presenting committee with Annalee Collins, our chair of the membership committee, I want to give everybody some scope of our committees here. So we had our finance committee that I helped present for, Annie chairs the high. We have our 5th committee presenting right now, which is our 6th committee in the bylaws essentially. Plus we have 2 ad hoc committees right now, being the facilities master planning committee and the centennial committee that we mentioned previously. That brings us to 8 active committees, plus the MGA and LGA, comprised of 7 or 8 members apiece. That's about 80 active members across 10 committees. So there's a lot of input that goes in. So with that in mind, Annalee is not last but least in our presentation for committees.
Thank you, Josh. So I did wanna, you actually took my thunder, Josh. The membership here is just amazing. And I promise not to cry. And because it really does hit home in my heart to see how many people really stand up and volunteer. And really, this is our club, and we are its members. And so I just appreciate all of the input and everything that you bring to all of these committees. I also want to really give a shout out to Bevan. He makes my job really easy. I mean, he does everything, basically. So I'll just touch on a couple of things that we do in the membership committee. We obviously, our outreach to new and existing members is our paramount concern. We want to make sure our members, existing members, love this club and want to continue coming here. And we also, want them to recommend their friends and family to join the membership too. And I just have to say that, again, Bevan has done an amazing job of bringing new members to the club and really hosting them I don't even know what a better word than incredible is, but he's doing a great job. We started this ambassador program a couple of years ago, and we really want to enhance it because we have a lot of new members this year and a lot of young members this year. And so we want our existing members to be part of that ambassador program and to help us really, show them around, take them out to play golf, go to the grill, something like that. So Bevan and I are going to be working, as well as the committee, to enhance that ambassador program and to reach out to members to become part of that ambassador program. We had a lot of club events this year that have been really popular, just to name a few, but the paint and sip was a hit. It was, I think, waiting list for 2 of the occasions. So we're definitely going to bring that back. And the chef's wine dinners were really well received. And thank you, chef. Those pictures of the food looked incredible, and the wine complementing it was also incredible. Our wine tastings are still popular. Every month we have those, and it's a great time to bring a new member in to introduce them to the rest of the membership, because a lot of people come to that. One of our, we talk about where you belong as a member, and we also talk about where we belong within the community. And I want to acknowledge Beth Whitney for spearheading the Little Fawn, Adopt a Little Fawn Park. And we have 14 volunteers that are going to look after our park. And so we're really, really proud of it. There's a little plaque there that states, you know, that we have adopted that park. Also, you know, we promote the OSU Cascades putting contest. We also do Heaven Can Wait, the walk that Connie is a part of. Thank you. And also the giving plate during the holiday party, which has been a success. We communicate to the board of directors. We come up with recommendations, promotions, things like that. And then this year, social media has really ramped up. Thank you, Bevan, and also Allie, who is a part of our membership committee, who takes a lot of photographs and likes to put them on Instagram. We also are engaged with Scott Brooks. He's a golf influencer, and he's been adding spectacular photographs to the Instagram and Facebook accounts, really promoting the club. And then I think we just, you know, continue to look for new members. So come join us every third Tuesday. And then I guess I'm supposed to go to the next slide, which I don't know how to do this on this computer.
Our next one, the membership report.
Okay, do you want me to talk about that? Or are you gonna talk about
I'm gonna take this one.
it? Okay, good.
Thank you. I've traditionally taken this one as well, as everybody might know that I tend to be a fact guy with data and clubs. So looking at this year's membership report was really interesting compared to where we were last year, as we had a downtick in members the previous fiscal year. And as we presented this last year and you followed the national trend, we followed the national trend in that previous fiscal year almost exactly to our results, which made us feel like we weren't doing anything necessarily wrong. It was what the industry was seeing in that time period. Similarly, this year, we follow that same trend. So we've increased our golf membership by 11. That's our equity golf members. Everybody might wonder, well, 11 members, how do we get to that initiation fee member? Keep in mind that that's a net increase of 11. So we had some resignations, and the key stat is there. The median club nationwide for golf members loses about 5% of their members a year. 5% of 330 is right around 20. And that's about kind of where we were in that kind of time period. It's kind of what we saw the year prior. So it doesn't shoot out to me that we have members resigning at a higher rate than most clubs. So it's really exciting to see us grow beyond that throughout the entire fiscal year. Similarly, the non-resident golf increased by 6 in the past year and now has a wait list of about 2 members coming in. And through that, our membership committee looked at that membership type and moved the initiation fee to 80% of the prevailing initiation fee for those coming in on the wait list and beyond based on the demand for that category. The other exciting one is tennis, which caps out at about 60. So we were actually at a wait list for tennis through most of the spring. We're 1 short at the end of the fiscal year. So it's really nice to see tennis and pickleball and courts membership, I should say, have that activity. One thing that's really interesting when we look at that category, obviously pickleball has been a huge explosion nationwide, and that's definitely drawn in a lot of members to us. But we still have an extremely healthy tennis program here at the club. Kevin speaks to that, and I can say in some of the tours that I've talked to with Bevan, we've actually had some members come and join us here because other facilities in the area no longer have tennis to have more pickleball. So it's been a benefit for us to have a balance of the both, and that's helped produce that result. So overall, kind of a good membership year here in a lot of different ways to produce that financial result we talked about earlier. I want to key on 2 different things. beyond that that help produce this result. One is our community outreach and marketing. As we've worked in the past year and with Bevan writes press releases for a lot of our big events, US Senior Open Qualifier, the Centennial, those kinds of things. I get questions on sometimes of why some outlets might not cover that and others do. Just so everybody knows, we reach out to about the same 15 outlets in Central Oregon, from Central Oregon Daily to KTVZ, the Bulletin, the Source, so on and so forth. They all get the exact same press release. So it's kind of up to them to determine their business model. That's kind of what they do, right? And kind of work with us from there. We have partnered really well with Central Oregon Daily in the past year. They've been here for a couple Centennial events so far, the USAM qualifier, so on and so forth. They're looking to do some more coverage on our Centennial coming out. So that's been a fun one for us. The Bend Bulletin kind of ran an article for us as well recently. So just kind of want to cover that as we continue to reach out to the local community in different ways. We've continued to foster those relationships and get more engagement across the board that really helps with our marketing efforts. Last thing I want to point out is this bar graph in the bottom right. Ironically, I found this one this morning. I was confirming that it was actually 5% resignations. I thought it was 7%. So I went to look it up. And I came across this graph and I found it to be really compelling to me, and I hope it is to you. When we did the club benchmarking survey back in October, we had two specific questions in there that we wanted to drive data out of, being a simple member satisfaction score, as well as a net promoter score. And I think we were all very proud that we're reviewing that at kind of the board level in detail, that in both of those categories of member satisfaction and promotion, we scored better than the national average. And I think that's something to be extremely proud of about our club, because it really gives a simple data point of how much our members enjoy this place and use it. I was really compelled when I came across this one this morning. Now that we have this data in the club benchmarkings system, there's thousands of data points and Diane knows them, and depending on what you may have, you might not have a result. But since we did the survey, it kind of produced this one for us in the past couple months, and I didn't see it till this morning. Net promoter score by generation: silent generation, baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, and Zoomers. And in every single one of those categories, our club is higher than the national average in the net promoter score. So it really enforced that for me. And these kinds of things, and this graph, when we're that happy about our club, is what helps produce these results we see here and in the financial piece. And that is why I kind of wanted to take this one for us and explain some things that I tend to look at on a particular basis. And I thought that one was kind of cool. It's not something that I've even ever seen before, so. With that in mind, and we talk about our successes and ability to look into the future in our next round of projects, I'm gonna pass it over to Jen Agnes, our grounds committee chair, to talk about the work her and her committee and team do to help plan for the next 100 years for our golf course.
Okay, I brought props this time. So I'm much better talking to people in smaller groups. I have this hat in 4 different colors, and if you ever see me, I'm here a lot. I would be glad to talk to you about any concerns you have about the golf course or our plans for the future. And this slide that we're going to show now is actually last year's slide. So for new members, the club hires a professional golf architect to help us with our progress. And Dan Hickson put out a new 10-year plan last year. And we had just gotten that in March, and the annual meeting was about the same time. So we then, I'm sorry, I don't know how to change the slide.
Just put it right. I got it. Just blink your eyes twice.
Yeah, there we
Hit this right arrow.
Oh, okay, thank you.
go.
So then the committee took the 10-year plan. So this is a synopsis of the master plan 2.0, which you need Cheaters 3.0 to read. And it has about 100 items on it. And about a third of that has to do with cart paths. Another big project on there was the tee boxes, which we are working our way through. or I should say Moff and his crew are, but we are. So, from this synopsis, this is what we have started working on. So for the cart path project, we made another smaller, spreadsheet with all the cart path items. And it's actually more than, the 30-ish that were originally on there, because you can see in the lower part, a place that you've probably never been to, which is the maintenance yard, where all of Moff's crew work. And the very poor condition of the asphalt there, which are very expensive equipment, travels over all the time. And so we added on the maintenance to the first part of our project. So the committee worked diligently to figure out what was the first part of the whole project, or the first phase that we would like to approach. And Ma felt strongly that repaving on 1 and 18 would make the beginning of your golf experience and the end of your golf experience more pleasant if you were riding in a cart, because we all know what the cart paths are like. And then to repave all of the par 3s except number 11, which was on last year's slide, because we changed that path to that natural grass path. Part of the reason the 3s are on there is because those holes, we particularly would like riders to have all 4 wheels of the cart on the path at the tee box and the green. And then we also, on the slide that is to the left and has a G on it, one of our hopes is to reroute the path on the second hole. So if you picture the second hole, the path comes up the left side. Most people don't use most of it until you get up towards the green. If you happen to pull your ball left, it bounces off that path into the woods. We would like to, what Dan has recommended is that we reroute that path behind that kind of rock outcropping, and the existing path would get removed and regrassed. And then on similarly, we would like to remove some of that path there. And then the last thing on there was the maintenance yard, which I already talked about. And then, so we took all of those items and we made different phases because it is such a big project. Phase 2 would be repaving the greens and tees on the par 4s and par 5s. And some of the other holes we would reroute. And we would also remove some of the cart path that isn't used, similar to on the 5th hole, where on the right side, there's no longer a cart path, but there is some gravel base there. And then there are some other maintenance needs that Moff's crew would find really helpful to access the pump house and some of the areas they use to put extra material from the cleanup of the course. And phase 3 would be remove all the asphalt in low use areas and regrass those. And or put the rock base over them. So the next steps will be to meet with contractors and get some numbers so that we can put a budget together and present that. And I skipped this one part where Moff has really taken a lot of time to think through this project, because part of the reason the cart paths are such poor condition is because of tree roots that have come underneath the cart paths and heaved the asphalt. And there are points at which curbing might be necessary to redirect water or keep people from wearing down the edges of the path. So that's what we've been working on. most recently, and his, let me see what the next slide is. No, finance committee. Okay, so. I got through that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jen. So as we look, we've kind of focused this meeting so far, leading up to the grounds committee on things we've accomplished in the past year. Now we're kind of really starting to focus on the future, right? And for those that joined us at the town hall last month, some of these concepts or ideas will overlap of where we're working at in the fiscal year 26 and beyond. And it kind of works in tandem with this meeting. So we talked about our financial successes, looking at our financial model to understand what our potential is and what decisions the club can make to improve ourselves for years and decades down the road. So with that in mind, the grounds committee has been able to help work on that development of their phase one. And we have our facilities master planning committee working on that phase one, so on and so forth. When we look at our financial model, we were working with the finance committee to update our definitions of how we look at our cash following the land sale from 2018. I consider this a great project to work on because it means we've succeeded in the past 7 years, that we need to update them and we've evolved. It's a great thing, right? We have moved from where we were at that point into a different dynamic where we're at now. So I throw this out there because the rest of the presentation are things you're going to be hearing about around the club in the coming year. So we want you to give you the opportunity to understand them a little bit better, know the work that the grounds committee and the facilities master planning committee is doing and what finance kind of looks at on the back end. So I bring this up here before I get into some of the definitions we're looking right now. This cash allocations that we look at on our balance sheet right now reads operating cash reserves, unplanned repair and replace, long-term capital fund, capital dues, and operating cash, which is kind of a complex list of things. What we've worked on in the past few years when we looked at the financial model we were looking at before is a little simplification of that. And it gives us the opportunity to kind of bridge those together in this fiscal year, make it really clean and consistent for the entire membership to understand where we are financially and where we can go. So that when we work on these projects, it's simpler for everybody to understand what we're capable of and what we might be capable of in the future. So with that in mind, the committee has derived 4 definitions to help us kind of look at our cash balance and what we can work on accordingly. First one just being your simple operating cash. Think of this as your simple checking account. Gives us the ability to pay payroll, property taxes, insurance, fertilizer for the golf course, making sure the beer is cold up here, all those kinds of things throughout the year. So as we work through these, we want to define the definitions, which we've pretty much completed, and then we're going to define the balances to them in the coming months. So as we work through that, we'll kind of look at what our annual operating is from an expense side, how our AR/AP relationship is, and make that simple so that when we have property taxes come into the office, that we don't have to scramble to pay those accordingly from our other accounts. Second account is being that break fix fund. So this is those things that where assets break throughout the year that you weren't planning for, that we need to replace pretty soon to maintain our operation. Good examples of these within the past year, the range picker, the front piece of it that picks up the balls, broke last summer. We need to pick up range balls, it's pretty important to our operation, able to use the break fix fund to kind of supply that for us. 2 summers ago, the washing machine downstairs broke. That obviously supplies our cows to the athletic operation. We're able to use the break fix fund for that purpose. So think of that short-term break fix fund for those kinds of needs and not long-term kind of planning accordingly. Next is what we have called the reserve account. So think of this as your savings account overall that helps you have that kind of back-end nest egg for if you need money if something goes wrong. An example of something going wrong, a pandemic, a natural disaster that keeps us off the property. Those kinds of things that we can maintain to pay our bills accordingly in one of those unforeseen circumstances that kind of keeps us healthy along the way. What we've added to this account going forward is the ability to have individual line items as part of it for future long-term projects. I'll use this example, but I want you to know that this is an example that we haven't gotten to yet. So don't jump to the races on this one. The golf course has an irrigation system. It has a lifetime of 10 to 15 years from now, and MOF is beginning to research that with an irrigation consultant with the grounds committee to better understand what that timeline looks like. So that's where I want everybody to understand, we're not buying a new irrigation system next year. We're starting to plan for that in 10 to 15 years, whatever that might be, right? But I use that as an example for this line item is, if we start to determine projects like the irrigation system that we need to fund 10 or 15 years out, we can have line items as part of this reserve account, so that when we get to 10 years out, we're not surprised by them, we're ready for them, and we understand what the impact can be. So it'll kind of be a two-part piece to the reserve, the short-term issues that can arise that we need to cover expenses for, planning for the long-term ones. The last one is called remaining capital. This is basically the rest of our funds left in the bank, and this is where we've really funded items like the HVAC project and the fire panel project and the chairs and those things we've done over the past couple of years have basically come out of this account in the essence of these four. So this will be a lot simpler for us to understand, for the membership as a whole to understand, that might not work on the committee on a day-to-day basis versus the way that we have it allocated from years past. So again, this is a total success for Bend Golf Club that we've continued to evolve over the years and are looking at this with a new light in 2025 and beyond. So with that in mind, let's talk about some future projects. Grounds Committee, as mentioned, has kind of developed phase one for the cart paths and is continuing to research that in tandem with the Facilities Master Planning Committee looking at the future of our facilities. In turn, we have also learned of some other repair and maintenance items that we are looking to complete here in fiscal year 26. You might ask, why now? Why is this coming up in this instance? One thing that really helped us determine when to place these repair and maintenance items was the survey. The survey not only told us what was important to the members or what we could do, but items that didn't fit that mold that we still need to accomplish. So the first one being the elevator project. So we have reviewed this in detail in the past few months. And you should have gotten an email about it a few weeks ago regarding it is going to come up for vote starting this Friday. Key component of why the elevator is being proposed now. If you were at the town hall last month, they called it an item that keeps me up at night. Every once in so often you basically go and turn the power off the elevator and shift it back on to get it to work and those kinds of things. It's 30 plus years old. It has lived its life cycle and we're unable to maintain it going forward. Not only do members use the elevator to gain access to the building, we use as an operations team to get our deliveries to the kitchen, to get prep food to Mulligan, so on and so forth. So it's really important that we plan for this. Planning for this gives us about a 4-week period to be down versus a 4 to 6 month period to be down. So just imagine the impact that could have to our operation and member usage at the wrong time of the year. So the reason this is also looking at right now in conjunction with the survey is there was a specific line in the survey about the importance of the front entrance to the membership. And overall, it was a low priority, which means in the grand scheme of things, that elevator shaft is not moving anywhere in the next 10 plus years. So the expense and everything allocated with that indicates we really need to get this maintained and functioning so that we don't have an unexpected downtime period. So we have worked with our general contractor, Wolf Construction, and as well as the House Committee, Finance Committee's reviewed this in the board to propose the project to be completed next winter. Most likely either in November or following the holidays in January, once we have a successful vote in place. We can go out to contract the project at the bid following the voting period that takes place in the next week. That'll solidify us the ability to work on that next year. So you're gonna get a ballot for all of our voting members on Friday. About 1 week to vote on that. Same process we did for the chairs, the HVAC, and the fire panel project in the past couple years as well. So I hope you can understand the importance of that elevator to us, why it's not gonna move anytime soon based on the priority of redoing that area to the membership, and why it's important to have it, and all those kinds of things. Total project cost is $210,000, which is right around what we kind of had expected it to be in our 3-year forecast over the past couple years. So being able to lock that in with a contract in early July just solidifies our ability to work on that project later this year. Next item that we have reviewed and the board has actually formally approved as of our last meeting is the clubhouse roof. Just in my time here, you've kind of heard this story, you've been around me. I came on board in 2022, first visited the roof in that time period. And you could kind of see it starting to degrade. And everybody I talked to from a facility standpoint in 2022 is like, you should plan for this next 3 to 5 years. It's coming up. You don't need to do it in 22, but you definitely need to start planning for it. As we worked on the HVAC project, we were on the roof more than we might normally be on a day-to-day process. And through that year, I was just watching the roof degrade. So wasn't forgetting about it, kind of rolling through there. As we went up onto the roof this winter, I have this picture here of the gutters. The granules coming off the shingles are now accumulating in the gutter, where a majority of our roof structure is now not on the roof and in the gutter. So we have watched it degrade to that point, which we kind of expected it to. And also, in looking at the survey, there's not a major appetite to do such a project of changing the roof structure overall or the like, where we need to get this work done to protect the building overall. In turn, we asked Wolf Construction to help us kind of bid this out, and when I got the bid back, I kind of ran into Diane's office. I'm like, this is a really competitive bid compared to the estimates I was given 3 years ago, almost 50% of the original cost. So we have approved working on the clubhouse roof later this year before the snow flies. I have the vendor coming by on Thursday to meet with us and discuss scheduling. It's 12 working days to complete the clubhouse roof. So that's basically 2.5 weeks. We want to obviously target a period where we don't have as much club activity, but trying to squeeze it into a window that we're not deferring it out until when the rains and the snows start to come. So we kind of, in talking with the vendor so far, we threw out an August or September wheelhouse that would work for them. We're going to have a discussion on Thursday, and I'll reach out to the board accordingly from there to try to pinpoint a 2.5 week window where we can go ahead and get this work done. With that being said, we've worked with House Committee and our designer to help select a shingle color for the roof that we'll send out to the board here as soon as we complete that. So I want to thank our designer Mindy, who helped us with the chairs and some other projects around here, who came by and looked at a variety of shingle samples with us and made some recommendations to House Committee. So if you walk, this is like one of those things too, I never paid attention to the roof. In the past month, I've been looking at the roof color from like the Murphy Roundabout, 18 Fairway, everywhere. It's like really funny to start seeing it in those ways. So we kind of have a brown color roof up there right now. When you stand back and look at the building, you would be surprised at how much black accents there are along the building. Not only the railings, but a lot of the painting and trim around the windows, the gutters, and different pieces. So Mindy looked at that, and there were a couple different options, and this is kind of a softer black gray that we are looking to for the roof. I think the other great piece of doing just something a little different with the roof color is when we pull in, and you can see it from the Murphy Road roundabout, it'll give the building a little fresh breath versus having just a similar brown color up there for us as well. So you're going to be hearing about this one. It is within the board's authority to approve this. So we've scheduled it, or we'll be scheduling it for later this year and kind of getting the work done. Now that we do have it approved, that walkthrough on Thursday, we're going to talk about how they want to approach this project and the impact around the building and those kinds of things. So very similar to the HVAC project, we'll kind of communicate that with you further. But we're really glad to be able to have this be one of those things that has been talked about for quite some time, be a realization for us now going forward. And for our next slide, as we mentioned before, Beth Whitney has spearheaded the project of Little Fawn Park and our adoption of that with Ben Parks and Rec. So Beth, I'll let you speak to that.
Thank you. Well, Emily already mentioned, but I just want to say how proud I am to be a member of Ben Golf Club. On Friday afternoon, May 30th, the Pine Pulse weekly newsletter hit my inbox, and within minutes, literally minutes, I had emails from people volunteering to help with the park. And in 5 days, we have a 14-member volunteer group. We had our first orientation last week, walked through the park with Josh. And it's going to be a simple project, but really all of us have adopted the park So even if you're not on my volunteer group, if you're passing by there after your round of golf or before you go to tennis and you see something that doesn't look right at the park, you can call me anytime and I'll report. And we turn in a monthly report to tell all our visits to the park. I think it's really important to show Central Oregon that we care. And we have shown the local neighborhood that we care. Annalee also referred to the community outreach page. If you go to our website and look up member resources and go down to the community engagement, you will see that our members, whether it's as a club or just personally, over 50 people volunteer for over 25 organizations. And you can look and see what our members are up to. So if you need something else to do in your life, you could go to another club member and say, hey, I see you're a CASA volunteer. What's that like? Tell me about it. And you can learn more about what some of our other members are doing. So anyway, thank you, all of you Bend Golf Club members. You make me proud.
Few items, before we conclude the meeting. First is that board elections are upcoming in October. And we have formed the nominating committee. Lindsay Wallace is going to be the chair of the nominating committee this year. And we'll be forming the rest of the committee in June, I think at our June board meeting, which is next week. If you're interested in being on the board, please contact the nominating committee. There's 3 seats open. And if you have any questions on the election process, please contact Rob Moore, who's the director of elections. So we've talked a lot about volunteering, and there will be 3 seats on the board. And if you want to participate, perhaps you have issues with how things are done or not done, please volunteer for the committees. Your voice is important. I want to talk a little bit about our centennial celebrations coming up. I talked about the gala and the book. I also want to talk about Debbie Smith and the committee's done an amazing job of putting together all of the elements for our centennial. So the first thing is our centennial week is July 8th to July 12th. I think you can see on the website all of the events that are going to be occurring. They cover everything in the clubs, the pool, the tennis courts, pickleball, athletics, golf, so on and so forth. It'll be capped off on the Saturday, the 12th, with a parade and with a hickory tournament. So we have secured how many sets of clubs? 100 sets of clubs. And there's going to be two times, I think 8 a.m. and 11 or 11:30, where you can sign up to play in the tournament, and you will be using the hickory clubs from back in 1925. So I think that'll be a really fun event. It's also going to be capped off that evening by Saturday Social, not a formal like the gala was, more casual, but we hope everyone signs up and comes. Another thing, I think Josh kind of touched on it, was, I think it was 2 weeks ago Sunday, there was a 3-page spread in the Bend Bulletin in their golf section that they put out once a year, and it was all about our centennial. So that was pretty exciting to see and read. So I think we've talked a lot about giving back, so I'm not going to go more into that. But again, I want to thank all of our staff, from management, from Josh, senior management, everyone who touches our members. They do an amazing job, and people have talked about being proud. I'm really proud of our staff and our club. So I'm sure there are some questions. I know that we're going to have a drawing. Some of you signed up because of that. Where we give away $100 certificate for dining at the club for anyone who had registered for the meeting. So first, we want to take questions though, and I won't be the only one addressing them, but any questions? Yes,
What's the committee that's doing the cart path study?
that's the grounds committee.
When do they meet?
Jen,
The second Tuesday at 4:00.
the second Tuesday at 4 p.m. And by the way, members are welcome to come to committee meetings. You're also welcome to come to the board meeting. We take visitors all the time. CAs and Beth come often, and there are others who rotate in. So we'd love to have you, and so would the committees. Maybe that would help you decide if you want to participate on a committee. So go check it out and see if you want to be put up to be a member. I think there was another question. Yes, hi.
Is there anything in the annual report or the presentation that wasn't revealed to us about the financial stability of the club? That we've stooped so low as to try to make money off of our members with private carts by charging them? And then secondarily refuse to readdress the issue despite member, committee, and board member feedback of the negative.
Okay, I'll start with that and then I'll let Josh talk about it a little bit. First of all, board often has to deal with controversial or difficult decisions. And we do our best to try and keep in mind the needs of all of our members, not just one group of members, whoever they are. We had one example this year was Mirror Pond and the Ladies Invitational. That was really a tough decision. And we try and look at everyone's, what's in the best interest of the members as a whole. We also do take input with the cards. I know that it created some controversy. Some things that some people don't think about with the cart. And I'll just use this as an example. Let's see, let me pick someone. If Connie is out playing with a foursome and one person owns a cart and says to the member, why don't you ride with me? And then the other two are riding a cart. Well, they're having to pay and the person who's riding with the other doesn't. So that's something just to keep in mind in terms of kind of fairness across the board. In terms of this,
That's been a practice for 50 years since we've had carts on this course.
Mhm.
We pay a lot as private car owners
Yeah,
anyway.
and you pay a lot as private car owners anyway. And then to say, that's what what other courses do and it's standard operating procedures. Well, that's not true whatsoever, a bunch of poo-poo, because if you find one that does, I can find 50 that don't, including every club other than this one in this town.
Many clubs don't allow any private carts.
You're right, and many clubs do. In fact, probably
Sure.
more do than don't.
Mhm.
So why we all of a sudden are trying to make money off the members and who now having additional maintenance, if you're having additional riders, I mean, if I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna say, all right, we're gonna now add more carts to the course by instead of, in your scenario, having two people in a club cart, a third in a club cart, and then I'll take my own private cart. So now you've got three out on the course.
Mhm.
Or four, yeah, so, and to have the vote at the time be board members short and then refusing to readdress the problem, this seems very short-sighted and again, seems to be something else going on behind the scenes, why this was so made and then refused to readdress it all when.
So let me go into one thing, which I know sounds incredibly bureaucratic. So forgive me for that. If you read our bylaws, we follow Robert's rules. Robert's rules are basically, if a vote is taken and you don't need the full board there in order to have a vote, you need a majority. And if a vote is taken, you can rescind that vote the same day, as long as someone who voted in the opposite way proposes to make the change. Otherwise, it becomes a whole new issue. So in other words, we don't go back and say we changed our minds. Now we go and we say, do we need to look at this again? And the golf committee, I think Mitch mentioned it, took it up and talked about it. And I believe that what the decision was, is that we're gonna move forward this year with what was decided. We're gonna look at the results of that, and they're gonna take it up again. And we will see what happens in the future for next year.
How about next week?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing in the bylaws that said you can't take it up and readdress it now with a full vote of the board. I mean, what's next, being charged for teas?
For benefits.
Yeah, this is a member club, and when you have a significant, one of the great reasons to be a member of this club is the fact that you can have a private car, and there's a number of people that live on this course and have a private car. And now, it's not saying, well, we're trying to cater to a couple, we're catering to a significant amount of them. And now trying to make money off of them.
Okay, well, the way things work with our governance is the committees.
We were
Just-
both board members.
Yeah. we're
Yes.
both workers,
Yeah. Well, not everyone else knows. You're asking the question, so I want everyone to understand. The committees discuss and make recommendations to the board. So it can go back to the committee to be discussed, and a new recommendation can be made to the board. So that can happen.
And the board can also take an initiative to vote on themselves without committee recommendation.
So,
And from what I understand, when there was the majority, when the vote happened, two of the voting members that were not present are card owners. So I got a pretty good strong feeling that this new policy would not have passed if you had all 9 members.
well, we look for our members to attend the meeting, so if they're not there,
Board meetings?
the board meetings, yes. So
Patty, tell them when the next board meeting is and.
the next board meeting is Tuesday of
Sounds like a
next
good time
week,
to
a
vote.
week from today.
Sounds like a good time for the board to revote then.
It's a good time for you to take your concern to the board meeting. That's the best way to get something changed, is for you to take it to the board or the committee.
Yeah, really starting, thank you, Cia. Yes, really starting with, Mitch, when is the next golf committee meeting?
First Tuesday of every month.
July.
First, July 1st,
July 1st.
right after the board meeting. So
Mhm.
they go to the board meeting.
So if you want to bring it up to the committee, please do that. Josh, do you have anything, do any of the other board members have anything to add? Okay, any other questions?
Patty,
Yes,
I just want to make a clarification with regard to the elevator project and the roof project. I just want everybody to understand that we are not asking for member assessment. That $40 of capital dues you've been paying has accumulated to the point that we can pay for those items in cash. So I just want everybody to be clear about that when you're voting on the elevator particularly. You're not being asked to chip in more, you already have, so let's get it done.
Thank you, Susanna. Yes,
How much did the roof end up being? I don't know.
Josh, do you know the
Total
amount?
budget for the project is 83,000.
83,000 for the roof.
That's a good deal.
Yeah. Mhm.
And that's why they're not voting.
Any other questions? Okay. Josh, the drawing. And by the way, you can always reach the board by writing to Board of Directors at Ben Golf Club at any time. But as I said, you're welcome to the meetings. I probably shouldn't draw. Diane?
Her name's.
The accounting firm.
Yes, the accounting firm.
Mike Fleming. Oh.
Is Mike here? Where's Mike? You have to be here to. Oh.
He's out with the kids.
I'm sorry, Mike. You must be present.
CA.
CA, maybe you can buy my picture. Thank you all.
Out this door is the flower, the plants. Don't forget to go out that way and pick up some plants. Take care of it.